My name is Bill Perkins, KB4KFT, and the notes up there say this January 2024 because we know actually it is March the 24th or March 2024, and we're going to do the meeting, the Atlanta Radio Club meeting, first Thursday of the month. Uh, we've got a program tonight. Rob asked me if I would do one on um, the Georgia QSO party, which comes up in April, and I told him I would. I would rather do it first of April, but if we need it now, we can do it now. And I think we may actually have a more in-depth presentation next month. Let's go ahead and start with some club business. Since I am the presenter, I don't have to worry about me hurrying off to do something, so we can take care of the club business and stuff we got coming up first. Second Sunday technical session. That's what Lynn was just talking about. That comes up Sunday. Bob Bennett, whose call sign I do not have here in front of me, he may actually come on in a few minutes. Bob is going to lead us on building a VHF or UHF. We got an option to either one, and if you're really ambitious, you might squeeze a 6 meter out of it, though it would be maybe beyond what we want to do on a Sunday. But we're going to build these antennas. It's basically SO239. Coat hanger is the material, metal coat hanger, so that number one, it's cheap. Free is about as cheap as it gets. And number two, once it's built, if it gets broken, it's easy to fix because the people that build them know how they did it. The goal is to, number one, walk out with a working, tested antenna. And number two, understand the calculations involved in coming up with the lengths of the radials and the lengths of the verticals. And three, learn some soldering and or blowtorch soldering techniques on constructing these things. I talked to Bob last Friday at lunch, and he said he actually sat down and built one using the plans to make sure that the plans were good and it was working. So we've got verified plans. What we're asking everybody who wants to come, and right now I have about 9 people on the list, though one of the guys has said he wants to come, he doesn't want to come, he wants to come, he's not going to be able to come, he wants to come. So I've got him as a Schrodinger's cat. We'll know when the day arrives if he's there or not. So we've got 7 or 9 people signed up. We've got room for a couple more, but not many more. Um, there's no cost for the material. If you've got some wire coat hangers and you want to build an antenna, I'd appreciate if you bring a coat hanger. If you've got some SO239s laying around, the donations would help. Otherwise, there's no cost for the class. We're going to start at 2 o'clock in the same room where the VE testing is. And the VE testing should be over by 2. If they're still testing, then we may have to wait for a few minutes to get started. We've got the room as late as we need it. We have in the past for second Sunday technical sessions been there until 7, 8 p.m. Don't think it'll take that long to build these antennas and test them, but there's no rush. And also keep in mind that Sunday, March the 10th, coming up, the time changes. So, people wander in an hour late and say they set their clock the wrong way. Well, that's an excuse, I reckon. Uh, so put that on the calendar. And even if you don't build an antenna, even if you don't want to build one, just come on over and hang out. It's always fun to watch people do things, especially when there's a certain amount of uncertainty about it, because it's fun watching other people mess up, maybe. And that makes it easier for you to do it next time because you don't have to be afraid of messing up. The other thing that came up from our meeting this week on the calendar is on March the 24th. That's a Sunday. That's the week after St. Patrick's Day, and the week before Easter on Sunday the 24th. We're going to meet at Brook Run Park, what we're calling the impromptu outing, because we hadn't actually planned on doing it. And somebody said, "Can we do an impromptu outing?" And I think the general consensus was, "Yeah, we can do one." So we're planning an impromptu outing on the 24th, starting at about 2 p.m. Eastern time. And there'll be more details posted next week on it, but it's in Brook Run Park in Dunwoody. It's an easy park to find, and we'll post more on directions on how to get there. Um, Coming up on the calendar, we do have plans to do a Georgia QSO party official outing. which would be on, I believe, the 12th, isn't it, John? I don't have the calendar right here in front of me. Is it Saturday the 12th? I believe so.
Uh,
I'm sorry, it's the 13th.
Thirteenth.
I got the presentation up here with the dates on it. What's hell? I can't look at the other side of the screen. April 13th. The official start of the QSO party is 2 p.m. Eastern time. I'm not too concerned about GMT, so it'll be 2 p.m. Eastern. We usually get there about noon and start setting up tents and putting up at least one station to get on the air. Um, Again, there'll be more details posted about this in the next week or so. But if you want to come hang out for a while, we'll have soft drinks, we'll have things to sit on, we'll have snacks, we'll have shade. Hopefully, it won't be raining. And the whole idea is to come out and have fun, meet some people. If you've got a radio and you want to bring it, we'll get it on the air. If you don't, come on out. We'll have one you can use. And if you don't want to get on the radio, just come out and see what's going on. It's good for people who don't do much portable operating to see how portable can be done. You won't see any real expensive stuff. We mainly have like ICOM 7300s and Yaesu 710s and 817s and things. Nothing real expensive. The antennas are not real complicated, and we're running on batteries. So if anybody's interested in doing POTA or SOTA or IOTA or any of those other OTAs, this is a good opportunity to come see how easy it can be done. So there you go. And more details will be on the website, and it will be posted in the messages as well as we get closer to the date. Just throwing it out there right now. What else we got going? John, you want to touch on the insurance situation? I know that's been a work in progress for a while now.
Yeah, it's still a work in progress. I didn't hear from the fella today. I was hoping to hear something. We're trying to work through a insurance company that's kind of based somewhere else, but they have an office here in Atlanta, and it's one of the same insurance carriers that's already up there on the Bank of America tower. So I think it's going to make the whole process a little easier, I hope. So I'm hoping to have that done because we've got to have that kind of pretty much locked away by the end of the month. So um, time's of the essence right now. So there's a chance we may have to end our policy that we just took on because most insurance carriers won't do an umbrella policy by itself that's affordable. And that's where we're at right now. We're needing that umbrella policy to meet the requirements of the bank tower. So hopefully we'll have some more information maybe tomorrow. But that's kind of where we're at with that as far as getting the insurance taken care of.
All right. And for you guys that don't know, uh, the insurance thing sort of popped up um, starting at the beginning of the year. The carrier that has carried the insurance for us for years and years decided that we were too small or we were too far outside their core market, and they didn't want to go any further. It wasn't that we got kicked out; it's just that they closed that line of business. And as we began to look at ARRL insurance, thinking that would be a good option, and it seemed to be, this umbrella thing came up, which is a whole different issue. So John and Ed have been grinding through this very slowly. We went ahead and signed up for ARRL insurance. That was what we were talking about last month. But it turns out the umbrella policy, which we also need, we may have to go to a different carrier, and we may end up losing or giving up the ARRL insurance. This is a bank tower issue, has nothing to do with, our risk or anything else. They have a new requirement. So Ed and John have done a real good job working on this. Um, anyway, moving on down the list, is Ed online?
Yeah, I'm here.
You want to say something real quick about the Treasury and then save the formal complete whatever we want to do for next month in the quarter?
I can give you the very quick financials. In the bank, Signature Bank of Georgia, not the one that went bankrupt, totally separate Signature Bank. We have $12,910.52 in our PayPal account. We have $1,429.44 for a total of $14,339.96. At next month, I'll give the end of the quarter numbers. We are asking if you are late paying your dues, please pay your dues. We need that money to pay our repeater costs and a few other odds and ends. And that's all I got, Bill.
That's good enough. Yeah, there will be some dunning notices going out in the next couple of weeks. I started working on some of that. This afternoon. Um, that sounds like a lot of money, guys, but we do have a full stack up on the tower, 2 meter. We got the DMR machine. We've got D-Star stack, and I think we're also supporting the D-Star stack on Stone Mountain. So the club has a lot of repeaters in the air, and we've got a lot of internet connectivity. And the only income we have is the dues and the Hamfest, and the Hamfest is still 3 months away. So, if you're not sure you're current on your dues, the amount of dues we pay for a year per member per year is not a significant amount of money. One of the things I always say as a joke is if it gets to the point where that much money is a significant thing in my life, it won't matter one way or the other. And I think that's partly true. We've managed to keep the dues down over the years by raising money in some other ways, and frankly, being very frugal about how we spend things. But we've got to pay for the repeaters. We needed to go to DMR. We've had to upgrade some of the hardware in the last couple of years, and those are just the expenses of running a club. So if you think you owe your dues, go ahead and pay up. I will check the spreadsheet again before I start mailing things out. Anybody that I've got a card for who has paid, then I'll just drop the card in the trash.
Hey, Bill.
Yes, sir.
What methods of payment are there? Are there any that are over the internet?
Ed, can we pay through PayPal for membership?
Absolutely. Actually, that's the preferred method for payment. You can send a check in, but when you do send a check to our PO box, I have to pick it up, carry it to the bank, physically hand it to them. When you pay via PayPal, it's all electronic.
Okay, and how do you do that?
Sign into our www.paypal. Let's see, Atlanta Radio Club.
There's a link on the website.
Yeah, there's a link on the website.
There's a link on the website.
Okay, then.
Welcome to the 21st century, Lynn. We don't write checks, except I write checks to two particular people just to be annoying. So every month I write 2 checks.
Well, I'm farther back than that. Last time I paid cash.
You paid? Oh, that's right, you did.
I'm just trying to make a joke. It didn't deliver very well.
No, you did. I remember. Well, I tell you what, if you want to hand me the cash Tuesday night, I'll make sure it gets to Ed.
Okay.
But PayPal is the preferred method. Good?
Yeah.
All right, good enough. A couple more points from our meeting. We had a short executive club executive meeting Monday. Val was asking about the repeater. Some of the people here in the meeting tonight, and we'll be listening to the recording, did hear us talk about doing something with the PDK tower. We've decided that we're going to look at maybe getting a remote receive site up there to pick up, maybe a little bit north and then point it downtown. Don't know if that's going to be suitable yet or not. The airport has a lot of VHF in the 126, 128 range doing AM, and they also have a couple of FMs up there. So we're not quite sure if our little tiny 220 transmitter would interfere with anything. We don't want to do that. And frankly, I'm not sure we'd really want to test the receiver to see if it's going to be desensed by all the VHF AM and FM right around it. So Val asked about that, and I had to admit to him we have not pursued it very far. There's some other things in the works at the moment. So that's it. That's it for that.
Are you going to have to use cans for that?
Oh yeah,
for
absolutely.
receiver?
Oh, absolutely.
Do we have them?
We have them.
Okay.
And 2 meter cans in the Hamfest world are really easy to come by. They're not hard. UHF cans are a bit harder, and those 6-packs, that have 3 pairs, they're kind of hard to come by. I think we get by with with 2 because we're not transmitting on 2 meters. We're only receiving on 2 meters. So we need to cut high and low. The 220, I don't think is going to be an issue. And then honestly don't remember, but it seems to me like the 220 is only like a watt or a watt and a half. And I know from that playground at PDK at night, you can see the bank tower. It's line of sight. So I'm not thinking our little transmitter is going to be a problem, but we want to make sure before we do anything. So that's a research thing that is low priority, but it's in the works. That's really all I have right now. We talked about the Georgia QSO party. That will be April 13th and 14th, but I'll touch that in a few minutes. Does anybody have any announcements they need to make? Anything they want to bring up in front of the meeting before we move on to my presentation?
Quick Hamfest thing. With the Hamfest coming up, you're going to start seeing calls for volunteers and such. So keep an eye out on groups.io and the website for the opportunities that will be available to sign up for different tasks, specifically for Hamfest Day. And if you're interested in helping with the planning, you can email me at vicepresident@atlantaradioclub.org, and I'll make sure we get you on the list and get you involved. So always looking for people to get involved. And of course, we've got plenty of tasks that are done by several of us. So if you're interested in helping with the newsletter, or you have an inkling for doing newsletters, we're always looking for a newsletter editor. That's about all I can think of at the moment.
Yeah, the Hamfest this year, guys, is important. If you've kept track of the last couple of years, COVID-19 has not been friendly to us because of the location. The Jim Miller Park ended up being a testing site, and it became closed to us for a couple of years. And then there were issues last year. We really need this Hamfest 2024 to go good. And John, go ahead and put me on the list for something for that day. I know I've got one of the antenna bills if we decide to do that. Maybe we can build 2 antennas, build the dipole and the one that Bob's going to teach us how to do Sunday. I don't know how well how mobile I will be, but I certainly plan on being there. I don't know if I can do much on Friday. Just depends on where my foot is at that point. And just so you guys will know, as it turns out, the final analysis I got from the doctor, the final guess was that I broke my foot at some point when I was 8 or 9 years old, and it didn't heal, but I grew through it, is the way she phrased it. And back in October, I did something to manage to break it again. And this time I'm not growing through it. So I'm sitting here with a big boot on my foot. I've been hobbling around since October. But at least the doctor now is the one going, ooh, that looks bad, instead of just me. So anyway, Hamfest, we need to do something to Hamfest for sure. And if you got any time at all on Friday or Saturday, be sure and volunteer because we need all the help we can get. And Hamfest it's a money source for our club. Anything else? Go ahead.
Hey, John, I'll be there both days, Friday and Saturday. Are we there Sunday or not?
No,
just Friday. Friday's set up, and then Saturday's a Hamfest.
Yeah, put me down for both days.
What time are we? Is it like the old days when we were out of there like 4 o'clock or so on Saturday afternoon?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. JT Malone won't be there, so we might actually get out at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
JT, he liked to. He's a good guy, but boy, he's slow packing up. Anything else? Going once, twice. All right. John, I've got the presentation sitting here. Let's see if I can get the desktop from you. Oh, ask to unmute. No, I don't want to unmute. Where is the link for grabbing the desktop? Share screen. Got it. Multiple participants.
You should go hit share screen and it should pop up.
Yeah, it's showing me this one. I want to see the other one, but that's okay. Select screen. There it is. Okay. Can y'all see the thing?
Yes.
Okay. I was going to go full screen with it like, the professionals do, but I decided to leave it this way so you can kind of tell when we come to the end of it. In any event, here we go. If y'all can see my screen, Georgia QSO Party is April 13th and 14th, 2024 this year, and we will make this link available, this whole slide deck available. I'm not one of those people that wants to copyright anything. There's nothing really proprietary in here except at the very end, and you can delete that one. In any event, if you don't know, QSO Party is when the clubs in a state get together or organizations in a state get together and try to get as many ham radio operators in a state on the air at the same time as possible. One of the purposes is that outside the state in ham radio in general, there are people that want to work all states or work all counties or parishes. There's some of them that want to work all state parks. There's all kinds of worked alls. So the QSO Party is an opportunity for people to get a chance to work all counties. In Georgia, I believe we have 159 counties. Typically, there are 5 or 6 that just simply there's nobody there. Seminole, Echo, Wilkinson. There's a couple more, but I know those 3 because I've looked at them. In a couple years, they had 0. Wilkinson County is where I go on Sunday, and often I'm the only person to ever work it in a particular year. So my contacts are the only ones that count. So that's the purpose of a QSO Party, is to try to activate as many counties in a state or parishes, because we got to think about Louisiana. Anyway, here's the dates for hours 13th and 14th. That's Saturday and Sunday. It's 10 hours each day. It runs from 2 p.m. until midnight on Saturday and from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. That's 10 hours on Sunday. And it's a lot of fun. It probably is one of the most uh, populous, I guess we could say, QSO parties. You listen to North Carolina, South Carolina, some of the others, you hear a few stations, but the Georgia QSO Party will literally slam the bands. It's almost like field day. This is the 63rd year, and they've sort of got a blurb in there that's nearly. There were a couple years that they didn't have one for whatever reason, but it's the 63rd year. The Atlanta Radio Club is one of the first clubs in the state to actually do an outing in a public park and invite the general public to show up. We were one of the first ones that started doing that about 15 years ago. But almost every club has some kind of activity, either in their members spread out in their houses. And one of the things you can do is you can actually work from your house, but then assign your points to your club. North Fulton does that. Guards has an outing in a park now. It's annual. Here we go again, the 2 10-hour sessions on the second full weekend in April. This year will be 13th and 14th. And it's Saturday the 13th, so there's nothing to worry about there. Hopefully this year we're looking to have all 159 counties. I think last year they were all there except Echo, which is down near the Florida line somewhere near Ocala, this side of Ocala. It didn't get picked up. And I looked at it several years ago. It turns out Echo has one little high spot in the middle with the Baptist church, and the rest of it's swamp, pretty much. So anyway, Echo's an interesting county. And again, there's the times that it goes from 2 p.m. Eastern till midnight. Our club outing, which will be on the 13th at Brook Run Dog Park in Dunwoody, we will start setting up at about noon. That is, arrive on the scene. We'll be on the air by 2 p.m. for sure, but we won't be there till midnight. We usually are out of the park by 7 p.m. or so. The purpose of our club activity is not to compete with the other clubs or try to win the contest or win one of the plaques, which we are actually sponsoring the plaque we would win. But rather to get out and just have a good time. And you'll see radios sitting there doing a thing with nobody using them, and you'll see radios with 3 people around them as they're learning how to do things. In any event, if you're more interested in GMT or whatever, you can convert those as you see fit. The summary, they've changed the rules a bit again this year. They keep jiggling them around. This slide shows the frequencies they suggest. But I can tell you that those frequencies, suggestions, I say, are like speed limits in Atlanta. You pretty much ignore them and do whatever you want to. We will pretty much cover 20 meters and 40 meters. The Georgia QSO Party will eat up about all of those. You've noticed there that 17 meters is not mentioned. There's no 1800 frequencies, so they don't want to get into that or any of the WARC bands. If you want to do 80 meters, and we got a guy here that likes to do 60. Lynn, I went ahead and threw on the 60-meter frequencies. You're probably the only one even thinking about them. If you want to do 80 meters, 75 meters later in the evening, you can. We will be leaving the park about the time 80 meters starts to light up. But for our club event, 20, 40, and 15 are the three bands we'll be using, plus 10 if it happens to light up. That's 28, 450. And again, by the time everybody gets on, all the Georgia stations get on like they will early Saturday afternoon. You can go anywhere on any band, any of these bands, and you'll find people working. The categories have not changed. They've got mixed CW and sideband, pretty much what you expect. And I just put this on for clarity. So when they say sideband, they mean phone only, CW only. There's also a digital component to that. They count digital like CW. The rules have changed around on that equipment, but I think right now CW and digital are considered to be the same. Categories of power, we got 5 watts for QRP or 10 watts for phone. And then 11 watts to 150 is they call low power, and then anything above that is high power. And there will be stations out there running 1500 watts. I know one operator in particular who, when he turns his radio on, it's connected directly to the linear and it goes straight to 1200 watts. There's nothing in the middle. There's nothing in between. Moving on, they've also rearranged the operator thing, and I don't know if they did that this year or last, but they've changed the operator categories. So now we have single operator. When we operate from the park, we operate as portable, but we also operate as W4DOC, and there are some requirements on that as well. But single operators, one guy, one radio, using their own call sign, doing their own logging. That's kind of a new thing. It used to be if you had one person on the radio and one logging, that was okay. Now single op is you'd have to do your own logging. And again, in the park, we will mostly be logging on paper and then submitting them later. Some people do have the ability to hook up and do online logging through some of the logging software. There's mentioned this later in the thing. Portable operator. They've changed the rules, and I'm not sure if it's this year or last year, but a portable operator is a single operator or more than one operator using one call sign. That would be like W4DOC, operating from one or more county. And they say more than one county, but if we are in Brook Run Park, which is DeKalb County, we can actually operate individually as portable operators. Then multi-operator single transmitter. That's again pretty obvious. You've got a couple people. They're doing their own air. They're doing the logging. This would be a case where you have one person on the radio, one person logging, as using a single transmitter in the same call sign. So again, this gets into the thing, kind of falls into more what we'd be doing at the park. Because typically, if you've got a new person on the radio, you log for them to help them along. The new category that I had not seen before is multi-operator two transmitters. That's multiple operator using two transmitters and one call sign. Now, the FCC rules say that you can't have the same call sign on the same band in the same mode. And a lot of people don't follow that. They don't understand that it's okay to have two transmitters on 20 meters as long as one of them's on phone and one of them's CW, or as long as one of them is on phone and one of them's doing digital. I'm not too sure what CW versus digital would do, but I would assume that digital is a different mode. It just counts like CW. So it'd probably be okay to have one person on CW and one doing FT8 or PSK31 or something. And again, so this looks to me like a new category either this year or last that they put in to cover the fact that a lot of people will set up a radio to do digital, do FT8, and then totally ignore it and just let the software sit there and run while they do something else. They've added a rule to the rovers, and again, I'm not sure if it was this year or last year, But typically in the old days, I acted as a rover because I would work in Fulton County for the club and then operate later in the evening from my house in Gwinnett. And then on Sunday, operate from Wilkinson County. So I had three counties, and therefore I was a rover. They've added a rule now that says that if you're a rover, your antenna must be a mobile antenna. It must be capable of being used from the car while it's in motion, though they discourage you from using it while it's in motion. But that was to sort of keep people from doing what I was doing, which is putting up a substantial antenna three times. One in DeKalb, one in Fulton, and one in Wilkinson. So they've kind of knocked me out of the rover categories. Anyway, we have single operator. That's one person doing the logging, same as a single operator we talked about a second ago. But you got to work at least two counties, and the rules are a bit strange here. It says you must work at least one contact in each county, and you must work at least two counties. And I was trying to figure out when I wrote this how to describe that without sounding kind of strange, because how do you log a contact in a county where you didn't work anybody? So anyway, that's the way they have it written, is you have to work at least two counties and must make at least one contact from each county. Don't have to make more, but one at least. And then we've got the multi-operator multi-single RM. It starts getting kind of strange here. That would essentially be a mobile station operated by more than one operator. Arnold KC4ZUA and I have done that a couple times where we would put the radio in the back of the car and drive, go to the next location, pull up to a stop, and then he would take the radio for a while, then I would take it for a while. And after we worked a few contacts in that county, we would basically move the car to the next county and do it again. We did that a couple years, and it's a lot of fun, but you got to have somebody with you that to share the load with. And a lot of times he was actually on the radio talking while I was driving. And I'll tell this story. My GPS at that time would tell you could program it to tell you how far you were from the county line. I think it was a bootlegger GPS, because you could actually tell it to mark county lines, and it would look ahead and say you're 3 miles from the county line. And I start telling Arnold we're 3 minutes from the county line, and he'd have a pilot sitting there waiting. And as soon as we cross into Putnam County, I'd say we're in Putnam County, and he'd work a solid pilot for 10 minutes. People just waiting for him to cross over. There's a lot of participation in the Georgia QSO party. The next category, I'd hate to just go through this list like this, guys, but I can't think of how else to do it. The next one, and this only counts for Georgia, is you have multiple operators with multiple transmitters mobile. And the only thing I can think of is there is a contest group, some guys that do contesting on VHF and UHF that I've run into a few times, and they have a pickup truck outfitted with outriggers so they can drop it on the ground and stabilize it with sets of antennas, 6 meter, 2 meter, 440, whatever you can think of, beams. And they roll up on the high spots during the VHF contest weekends and basically drop the outriggers, and they'll sit there and run 5 radios within 20 feet of each other off all these antennas mounted to the truck. That's the way I see this multi-operator, multi-2, RM, multi-2, that the abbreviation they have. I don't think we'd be doing anything severe like that, but at least QSO people have seen fit to make a category for it. So there it is. Next, scoring. There are some other rules wrapped around who falls into what, but basically you're either portable, mobile, single, or multiple. Stations can be worked once per band per mode. That's pretty common. You can work somebody on phone and then work that same station on the same band in CW, and it counts. That'd be 2 contacts. Rover stations may be once per county, regardless of band or mode. Again, going back to Arnold and I doing the cross-state drive, he could work the same stations in every single county on 20 meters, which is what we were using. So if you're a rover, once you cross in the next county, then he's a new contact. Part of the log is the county that he is in, not in the county you are in. And so even if he's not roving, if you are, since your county changed, it's a new entry and it counts. One of the rules they've added, and I'm again not sure if they've added this year or last year or a year before, is that stations outside Georgia may not be working DX. So if you hear somebody on 20 meters and he's in Spain and he's wanting to work people in the U.S. and you work him, he does not count. What they want to do is keep away from people interfering with people wanting to work DX and just horning into them. Again, it goes back to how popular the Georgia QSO party is. There's lots of people on the bands, and they're trying to make sure that the Georgia QSO party operators don't stomp all over DX. And I can tell you, having worked this one in Alabama and Tennessee, the real issue is that DX operators stomp on us. But we can be the bigger operators and not do that. No cross mode contacts. That was one that used to be pretty popular. That you could work somebody on CW. He could not hear you. Maybe he's running QRP. You couldn't hear him, but you could say, "Yeah, I hear you on CW," and you'd never make a phone contact at all. It'd never be two-way. He couldn't hear you. You couldn't hear him, but you could confirm the contact in CW. So they've done away with that. You have to have a full exchange either on phone or CW, and it has to be a full exchange both ways. And that's the next line. Exchanges must be complete, no partials. So they've added that as well, because a lot of times you work somebody, you get the call sign, but you can't find what state he's in. You never hear the state, or you never hear the county. And if you don't have the full exchange, then it doesn't count. And so that brings us to the exchanges. The exchange is your call sign, his call sign, signal reports, and just say 5-9, because people get irritated if you actually give them a signal report. And then it either is the state or the country of the remote station, and if you're in Georgia, your county. Georgia is not acceptable. You have to have a county in there in order to log it. So at least one part of that exchange must be a county. If you're in the state, like I'm in Wilkinson County and I work somebody in Fulton County, then I would say I'm Wilkinson, he'd say Fulton, and that's what gets logged, Wilkinson and Fulton. If I work somebody in Tennessee, then my log will say I'm in Wilkinson, he's in Tennessee, and that's what counts. SSB contacts count 1 point because they think they're so easy. Believe me, when the bands are in bad condition and you've got DX coming in and you've got 15 people hollering at you in a pile up, SSB contacts are not that easy. But apparently they're easier than CW. CW counts 2, digital counts 2 as well. I didn't add that here, but I'm pretty sure the rules say that digital counts as 2. There was some discussion last year about digital counting too, because FT8 programs can be just set up and run. You don't even have to touch them. If you've got the correct software, you run the software, you make the contact. The system itself will recognize the contact, will actually respond to the contact and log it. So I know a lot of people who have FT8 running on a little netbook or a little marginal PC and will just turn it on and walk off and leave it. And as a matter of fact, one of my friends, Chandler, a couple of years ago, I was at his house and we were putting up an antenna. He got an email, and his email was that his FT8 program had just worked some country, Peru, I think it was, for the first time. He made his first Peru contact, which he and I were both standing in the backyard knee deep in mud putting up an antenna. So a little concerned about that. There may be some rule changes on that next year. I don't know. That's basically it for this year. And again, we're going to be in the park starting at noon on the 13th and coming up on the air at 2 and working until a little bit before dark. I threw in some pictures here of past park outings. These photos, I'm assuming y'all can see the photos, are technically not Q or GQP, not Georgia QSO, but it's in the same location. And this is exactly the kind of setups that we have. We have a radio, we have a battery. You see, this is Rob Osatin, KI4UTY. He's actually doing something with 2 meter, probably making a contact there. The next picture over is Val. He's actually running, I think, on my radio doing phone. He's mainly a CW operator, but he's doing phone. We got Clyde. Clyde is sitting there with Val. Clyde brought his own radio and set it up, and we got him on the air. I think it's the first time he had that radio on the air. But right there in that picture, I think he's using my 7300. And we've got Arnold over here in the next photo, KC4ZUA. I had to throw him in there because Arnold and I have done a lot of QSO party before we started doing it for the club. This was last year in 2023 in Brook Run. We had about 20 so people show up for our QSO party. We at one point we had 6 stations up and running. A couple of them were portable. I think Richard N4RBI, I think's his name. He actually came over and set up his POTA station and was running FT8. We had about 6 stations up and running till dark. We had multiple antennas. We had a couple of multi-band verticals. There was a 40-meter vertical. There was a 20-meter vertical. We replaced it with a 20-meter dipole and replaced that with one that Hugo, and I can't remember Hugo's call sign, but Hugo wanted to test it because he had built it. So we put it up and ran it for a couple hours. Since we're not actually competing in the Atlanta Radio Club outing, we're not competing for points. We're not trying to beat a club or get bragging rights or whatever. There's no problem whatsoever taking a radio off the air and testing an antenna or testing something. Whole purpose is to have fun, and we had fun. Next one. Going back to 2009, this is the first Atlanta Radio Club Georgia QSO party that I was actually involved with, and we set this thing up at the Red Cross Center. It's the only time we did it at the Red Cross Center. It turned out that the location, because of WSB and Channel 5 and Channel 2 and all the big heavy duty transmitters in the area, that it is not a very good RF environment for amateur radio. One of the guys wanted to build a 10-meter dipole, and we could not put it on an analyzer and tune it because there was so much just stray RF coming through the site that the analyzer just sat there and jumped and jumped and jumped. And of course, our radio front ends were trying to filter that out. They were all partially desensed, but even so, you can see by the time there in the last photo on the right, basically it's almost 5 o'clock and we're still out there playing, having fun. We had about 30 people show up. Some of the people were not for our club. They just came by to see what we were doing at other clubs because we had talked about it. We had between 10 and 12 stations at the max, so typically we were running about 6. But we had a couple of guys. There was one man that is a heart surgeon who had bought this radio that went in an aircraft, and he was trying to figure out how to power it up, and so he brought it out, and we ended up sitting on one side of the parking lot trying to figure out how to power a 24-volt radio with two 12-volt batteries. And oh, by the way, what band is it? We fiddled with that thing for a couple hours before we finally got it to work, and we got it working. He couldn't transmit on it because it didn't have a microphone. We got it receiving. We had 3 antennas that were under construction that day. We built a 40-meter. You can see in the picture to the right the antenna hanging in the trees right there, the white one. That's one that we built on the site. KI4UPO, I think it was, had the 10-meter antenna that we could not tune because of the noise. We did have some injuries in that one. We had a guy come with a PVC bullet launcher to launch antennas, but it shot like a PVC slug, which we have banned from the outings now. But he basically managed to shoot somebody in the chin with it and managed to break a car window with it, so we had to deal with that. And then I lost a tennis ball, which as far as I know is still laying out there somewhere. It's a bright orange tennis ball, and we couldn't find it in the English ivy. Dug around for it off and on that day. And every time I go to the Red Cross Center, I walk back down there and see if I can spot the thing. This is what I guess after 15 years, we can kind of ignore it at this point. I sure would like to find that ball because it annoyed me. I saw exactly where it fell, and we never found it. Go ahead. All right. Somebody mute your microphone. We're getting feedback. All right, so that's 2009. That begins what I think of as the modern era of Atlanta Radio Club Georgia QSO parties. And this is the one that got us recognized by the Georgia QSO party people as being the only club in the state that had an outing in a public park or a public area. Here we got some of the radios that were out that day and just took a couple of pictures. And as you can see, of course, here's the antenna that in this picture in the bottom that we were building. Didn't have to be very high. It just had to work. And to the right is the car, which we basically knocked the window out of. The lady was happy. We replaced the window. She replaced her window for her, no problem. We replaced the windshield wipers, no problem. And the window guy who was doing the glass for us also patched the bullet holes in the car. So she was better off at the end than she was at the beginning for sure. Here's more pictures of that. Here we are actually building an antenna, stretching it through the yard. That's the white one we saw. Somebody put a 20-meter ham stick up. I had forgotten this thing and had it up with just plain old clamps, and it seemed to work. We actually made some contacts on it. So again, the whole idea is in these portable things is to try things and see what happens. Let's see what else I got here in the pictures. There's John. John showed up. He came in kind of late and left kind of early, but I think that's the first time. I don't know if that's the first time John had come out to one of the public events we were doing or not, but it seemed to have fun. So, what more you can say? We had to get a picture of John in there. Here we go at Lucky Shoals Park. This is the next year. We decided not to have it at the Red Cross. The collateral damage was too much. We had roughly 30 people show up. We started with the tree area, not a pavilion. You see everybody sitting at the picnic tables. But as the evening wore on, more and more people showed up and more radios got on the air. And we eventually just sort of migrated into the pavilion and took over one of the picnic shelters. They're first come, first serve, and we were there. And as people left, we just sort of moved in. We were there that night, if I recall, until about midnight. It was getting late. The police came by and saw what we were doing and said, as long as you guys stay down here and don't get out in the rest of the park, we won't say anything. And we said we're getting ready to leave in a few minutes, and we were out by midnight, I believe. But you see, we had 5 to 7 stations running all day. People would come and set up a station. They'd leave. They'd take it with them, and we put up another one. There were no car windows broken. Nobody was hit. We did lose one tennis ball, but it was an old blue one that I had found somewhere, so it was not a big deal. You find some, you lose some, big deal. Yeah, the three guys, one radio thing, that's one of the reasons why they added a new category to the Georgia QSO party, in that there were three of us. We had a radio, and we would just hand the mic back and forth. So I think they created a new category just for us, but we sat there and racked up about 60 or 70 contacts each doing that over the course of like 3 hours. And again, the goal is to have fun and everybody got contacts, right? This is the trip that Arnold and I made across the state. We started on the south side of I-20 at his house near Loganville, stayed south of I-20 and went through Putnam, all the way over almost to Augusta. We had dinner, went across I-20 and came back on the north side of I-20 the whole way. We'd drive for a while, cross into the county, find a place, we'd get off the road, work as many stations as we could work and drive on. And this was my 2008 RAV4, which is long gone. But you can see he was actually running. We were running a battery. Essentially, I had two 90 amp hour batteries in the car, but we were charging them when the car was rolling off a plug-in thing. The antenna we use would fit the modern requirement, is 20-meter ham stick on top of the car. So it would actually fit the current requirements. And you see, I folded the seat down. We put the analyzer and stuff in the car. Arnold sat in the back seat on the passenger side where I keep an eye on him. And whenever we got somewhere to stop, I would get in the passenger seat in the front. He'd hand me the mic, and we'd work whoever we wanted to work. It was a lot of fun. If you guys had never tried roving, it's a lot of fun. And there it is on the picture on the right. You can see the ham stick on the car. So. And there is Arnold operating from the back seat. So you can see the radio sitting there, and I don't remember what that radio is. It might have been a 570. I really don't remember. There's the famous LDG-11 tuner. And of course, the ham stick on the roof, you have to tune those, even though it was pretty close. Here we are in Putnam County. Turned out that we were the only stations in Putnam County that year. That was it. What we logged in Putnam County was all there was. We did stop in, I can't remember, Eatonton, and Arnold wanted to get a picture standing next to the Brower Rabbit exhibit. So there he is. We're standing in front of the museum. This is where we had stopped to get some soft drink. And some people have to go to the bathroom often, so we used it as a bathroom stop as well. And again, a picture of that. So here it is at the very end of the day, and I honestly don't remember what county this was, Teleferro or whatever that county is, but we were down to like 5 minutes or 10 minutes to go, and I just pulled off the side of this dirt road that we were walking. We didn't get on the main highways. We stayed dirt roads most of the way. You can see Arnold kind of crouched over in the back. He's still operating. And I basically took this picture at just about the time we stopped, at just about 8 p.m. And for some reason, the picture doesn't have the time in the lower corner. But I know it was just about stopping time because I need to take a break and no point in moving any further. We're not going to make another county after that. Here we are in 2012. This was in Butts County, which is another rare county. We set up basically in a picnic pavilion at Indian Springs State Park. And this was the club outing that year. We had planned on doing two. Bert and the board were going to do one in Roswell, I think. And KD4 Mike George, he was in Savannah that weekend. He was on his way home and said, I could meet you in Butts County. So we set up in Butts County and operated, and we were actually there till it ended at midnight in this pavilion. I had reserved the pavilion. Indian Springs State Park is a really nice state park. It's just this side of Macon, about halfway between Atlanta and Macon. This site is still there, though they have changed the park and added a conference center right across to the left of that top photo a little bit. The one scary thing about this park, and you can't see it in any of these pictures, that one on the right, though, the last time and I were there, we were doing a Parks on the Air. This would have been 3 years ago. And while he was on the radio, I stood up to stretch my legs and looked around and counted 11 trees hit by lightning right there. Without moving my feet, I turned and counted 11 trees that had been hit by lightning. And as we started to leave, this thing's a circle drive. As we circled around, there was a tree just about 200 feet from this pavilion that was still smoldering. The whole side was blown out. There was bark and wood chips all over the ground, and it was still smoldering. So it had just been hit like that morning. And so I'm a little suspicious about this area. If it's cloudy, I'm not going to go there again. This is pretty much the same. The conference center is to the left of the dam in the photo on the bottom, but Butts County Indian Springs State Park is a nice park to go to. The next day, I went to Wilkinson County. This is the first time I ever went to Wilkinson on my own. And so I was scouting locations. I got into the Beaver Dam wildlife management area. I got into it by accident because somebody had just left the road, that just left the gate open. And anyway, they have signs on the gate saying if you get locked in, call this 800 number. That's kind of scary. In any event, this was done when I was down scouting the area to see where I was going to go. And I ended up at this little lake right here, which is, when you see it from the ground, it's white. If you see it from the top of the hill, getting into it, it's turquoise blue. It's the most beautiful color I've ever seen, but it's white. And that's the road into it. I've told this story several times, and it's a warning. When I went down there, it was dry. On the day I went, it was muddy. And I ended up taking nylon ratchets and hooking them to the tie points on the car and finding a pine tree and jacking the car, sliding it across the road because it was so slippery that the car basically just tended to go to the right. It just arced to the right. So I had to slide the car back in the road a couple of times to get to the top of the hill, about 3 times on this hill, which meant that I got down the hill in about 3 minutes. It took about an hour to get back up. And there it is. So once I got on that road, I realized there was nowhere to turn around without getting into the soft mud on either side, and I was stuck. And that was not not a good event. In any event, when I got down there, you can see the road on the right is the one that went down by the lake. It's a perfect location to operate from. The lake, the only issue was there was a stream of turtles coming across my path there the whole time. Again, after this was over, I got to thinking they're going to lock the gate. I'm going to be tracked in here. So I moved. There you see the turquoise water. That's another picture of the white lake. So I moved up to, there's the setup. There's the possum, by the way. I'm basically that's where I was set up next to the lake. So I moved up to a kaolin dam or a kaolin mine, which was open that day. And now we're getting up toward 5 p.m. or so. I got outside the area that could be locked and I got up here and I actually operated from this kaolin. This kaolin, the big white chunks you see on the right, are full of seashells. I haven't seen any plants of any kind, but you can see seashells in the rocks. I've got a couple of them. And this is what Wilkinson County mainly looks like when you get off the main roads. It's just maybe one big mine with some fences around it. This is the antenna that I was using toward the end. Made about 200 contacts on this 40-meter antenna. The most expensive part of this antenna is the SO239 at the bottom. That's a wood block painted yellow in the middle. There's the setup. I was working one guy, the last guy I worked, I think, was in Texas, and he didn't believe that I was actually running an antenna like that. So there it is. I slid the chair and put it under it for scale, and you can see how high it is. The center part is just high enough where I can't touch it with my finger. And I didn't put the top scores in there, but top scores was sponsored by Norfolk. So there are other QSO parties in the area that you might want to look at as well as the Georgia QSO party. The Florida QSO party is the end of the month. It is a lot of fun in that we can work almost every county in Florida from Georgia on either 20 or 40. 40 is probably better. The Alabama QSO party is one that I really like doing. I drive like I'm going to the Huntsville Hamfest, cross over the state line. Before you get to Fort Payne, there's a big park. I think it's called Canyons State Park, Canyon Creek State Park. In any event, I've operated from there as Cherokee County the last 3 years. They've moved it this year. It's not the first weekend in September, not the second weekend in September now. It's on July 27th. That's a Saturday. So that may cause me some problems because that's my birthday and I'm never in town then. The Tennessee QSO party this year is on September the 1st, Labor Day. That's a Sunday before Labor Day. John and I have done that one for the last couple, 3 years, I guess it is. Last year was an adventure in that we got locked on top of the mountain and couldn't get down till 2 o'clock the next afternoon. But even so, it's a lot of fun. Tennessee QSO party is the people that run it are friendly. You can email them, ask questions, and they're really responsive. North Carolina, South Carolina QSO parties are also what they call co-sponsors of the Georgia QSO party, but we just missed them. Last time we were in the park, we were here in the North Carolina QSO party. So that's it. Finn, as it says. I've talked for what, almost an hour, almost 30 minutes. There's the dates. We'll be running 2 p.m. till midnight minus 1 second, as they say, and 10 a.m. on Sunday. I won't be in Atlanta from 10 to 8 on Sunday. I'll be in Wilkinson County, but the club may do something. And if not, you can do something on your own, but we will certainly be in the park from noon. We'll actually get there about noon on Saturday the 13th and start setting up. The official starts at 2 p.m. And I always push to have somebody on the air at 2 p.m. I'd like to make the first contact of the year, have somebody do it for our club, but that's it. So that's the official end of the presentation, such as it is, except for a picture of Doris Day. Everybody likes Doris Day. Any questions? Anything at all? Comments? Hello? Am I by myself?
Thank you, Bill. That was good.
I was starting to think maybe I dropped off somewhere about slide 2 or something.
Hey, Bill.
Yes.
Is this going to be a brook run?
Yes.
Is it going to be at the parking lot or at the pavilion?
At the parking lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't put that in here. Yeah, it'll be at the parking lot. Guys, there's a restroom area when you come into the park. No matter how you come into the park, there's a restroom area with the parking lot, and we'll be sitting right there. Normally, we go to that little building on top of the hill. That's where these pictures. Oh, where are those pictures? Yeah, see, I did this so I could go through them quickly. That's where those pictures were made, the first set. There's a little used to be a powerhouse, we think, or a place where there was an auxiliary generator. And when they turned it into a park, that used to be a mental hospital. And when they turned it into a park, they basically removed the generator. So Rob is sitting with his feet where the generators would have been mounted. They took the sides off the building and left it. It's a great place. But we'll be about 200 feet from there at the bottom of the hill, closer to the restrooms and closer to both entrances. Easier to find, I think. What else? Well, that's all I got. What was that?
So, what frequencies do you want to run? Obviously, 20 and 40.
20, 40, and 15 are the ones that we'll probably shoot for. We've got filters for those. But honestly, it'll be too early in the day. Let's go down one at 1.8 is 80 meters. It's too early in the day for that until we get up towards sunset, and then it'll be a real short window where you could work much 80. Certainly not 160. You work much 80 at 3.8. 40 meters will be active most of the day. That's 7 megahertz. It'll be active most of the day. It'll fade a little bit about 3, 4, 5 o'clock. It'll fade and it'll pop back. It'll waver around a little bit. 20 meters should be hopping all day long.
Would you want me to run the random wire?
We could. I'm trying to think where we'd put it up.
Through the tree line, close to that other road.
We could. Bring it and we'll see what we can do with it.
Okay.
What band is that random wire on?
Everything.
Oh, okay.
I'll try to stay away from 40 and 20.
Well, I'll bring my dipole for 20, but that's the only one I got. So
That's fine. Yeah, whatever you got. I mean, we don't have to run one antenna all day. And if you remember, Hugo actually brought one last year, and we pulled it down after about 3 hours and put another one up. He wanted to try a couple of antennas, and I think he was running 20 and 15, if I remember. I don't remember exactly, but we changed antennas.
yeah, I think John's got a 40-meter vertical. So if he's going to be there, we could use that one too.
Well, if we want to go that route, we're talking detail here, and that's good. We could actually put a filter on a radio, put the 40 vertical and a 40 dipole on one radio, put a 20 antenna vertical and dipole on another radio, put a filter, and put 15 on another. So we could actually put, a whole bunch of antennas up and use them, one radio on 20 meters, one on 40, and then bounce around. We're going to get into each other a little bit. It happens. You get 3 radios within 40 feet of each other, they're going to get into each other. But if we put the filters on and sort of space them out a little bit, there's plenty of activity for everybody to get involved in. And I'll tell you guys, if you've never been to one of our events, people get to talking and they go look and see what Ed is doing, and they'll get up from the radio and walk off, and we'll have a radio sitting there on a band that nobody has used in 30 minutes. And
yeah, that's me.
That's perfectly okay. I have no problem with that. The whole idea for our outings is not to maximize the number of contacts, it's to maximize the amount of information we pass back and forth on how to do things, what to do. And as far as I'm concerned, this thing is really geared toward new hams as much as anything else. You get a new ham on the radio, they don't have to worry about, saying the wrong thing. You got the exchange down pat, your call sign, DeKalb, and you write down his call sign in Fulton. And for a new ham, getting away from having to do a QSO takes a lot of the fright out of being on the radio for the first time. So I see these things as tailor-made for new hams. Right, Lynn?
Sure, but I've been at it for 20 years, just haven't been HF.
Yeah, well, okay. I'll accept that. You're still, as far as I'm concerned, a new ham on HF.
That's right. On HF, I am.
Okay.
Also, I'll probably bring the 6-meter, and I might try to build a 6-meter vertical before I come, before the QSO party. That way I can bring a switch and switch between directional and omnidirectional.
You going to try to bring that Moxon that you got?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I don't think I'll have any luck finding anybody, but I'll probably get tired of the long wire after a while.
I don't know. On QSO party day, you might find some people on 6 meters for real.
Well, we can try it.
Well, you see the main calling frequency 5135 is just up from the calling frequency. So if you need to fine tune for a sideband frequency, shoot for like 50.2,
Okay.
right?
Well, think about where you would put me with both 6 meter and the random wire.
At the extreme right end, essentially where you were last year.
Okay.
I would move you down that far and then put your two antennas together because you're going to be using one at a time.
Right. Of course.
Right. So it doesn't matter if they're not going to interfere with each other because you're only using one at a time. See, we're planning here. I like
Well,
that.
actually, the 6 meter, it might be possible if I have enough coax to use a switch and just be able to switch back and forth between the two 6 meters.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
You'll have enough coax, trust me.
Yeah.
I've got tons of coax. And guys, don't worry about buying anything like coax. I got
Well,
700 feet.
I pretty much got all my own rig for the most part.
Right.
The one thing I would suggest, though, the club might consider maybe figuring out what other bands that they want to buy filters for events like this, where we have a filter for maybe one filter per band that belongs to the club.
That was kind of the plan at one point. Lynn, I actually bought the three I got as an experiment. And that's, if you look at that chart up there on the screen, that's be 7, 14, and 21 megahertz of the three I have. I didn't see any point in getting, one for 10 meters at 28 megahertz because nobody actually works that. But I got to thinking if these things actually work, I probably would go ahead and buy the whole set. Do we
Right.
need 160-meter filters? No. Uh, we had one guy show up, and I think it was for field day back in 2010 or something. Val would remember this. He showed up with a double-sized G5 RV, which was good on 160. And we like never got that thing up the trees. It took us because it has to go like 70 feet high and it's 190 feet long or something. We like never got that thing up. And Arnold and I do the CW Worldwide on 160 meters in February, and I can tell you it's easier to go over to his house and build a 160-meter dipole on the spot than it is try to carry one around and put it up. So I don't think at our club outings like this anybody's going to be doing 160, maybe 80, maybe, but you're talking about getting later in the evening, like after sundown, and we're hardly ever there much after
Right.
sundown.
Well, that random wire was able to do both of those when we were at Winter Field Day,
Right, but what time did you finally pack up and quit at Winterfield Day?
about 2 in the morning.
Yeah, there you go. So
But I
for
started around 10.
yeah, so our club outings like this thing will be out of the park before 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, but 5 hours, 6 hours, realistically for a non-competitive event, 5 or 6 hours is about it. And I'll be honest with you, at the end of 6 hours, I'm ready to go. So anyway, yeah, but you're right. The filters, for those of you who don't know, I bought a set of filters, just three of them for 15, 20, and 40, because I wanted to see what they did during Winter Field Day, and I wanted to see what they did in a couple of the outings. And we actually had stations on 20, 40, and 15. The antennas were all within 40 or 50 feet, and they were not getting into each other. There was no interference between the stations. So these filters are absolutely worth the cost. And I may go ahead and buy another couple of them. But again, you see the bands, these are the common contest bands. These are the common field day and QSO party bands. And if you've got one filter for each, then pretty much you're protected. And if somebody wanted to do 80 meters, for instance, and we had a 40-meter filter and a 20-meter filter on the radios, then that 80-meter guy, he's not going to be getting into the 20 and 40 radios. So we don't need an 80-meter filter so much, right? But we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if we need to buy. That's something we can figure out. Anything else? I like that we're planning QSO party. It's only like it's not even a month away at this point.
Yeah, because if we have to build an antenna, now's the time to do it.
Well, if you need to plan, your days off or something. Of course, it's Saturday and Sunday, but a lot of people like to work on Saturday and Sunday. Anything else? Anybody got any questions at all about the club activity for the QSO party or the QSO party in general? Man, I must have done a great job. Okay. The Tennessee QSO party is the other one I mentioned at the end of the presentation. That's why I let this sit on the left so I could do what I'm getting ready to do. The Tennessee QSO party, John and I have gone to a place called Buck Bald, which is in Monroe County, which is a rare county for Tennessee. The first year I was at Monroe, again, I was the only person who got logged from Monroe. That was it. We also operated from Putnam County one year when it was raining so bad that we looked at the top of the mountain and it was like something from Ghostbusters. All you could see was dark clouds and lightning around the top of the mountain. So we stopped at Putnam County, which is Turtletown, Tennessee. We actually operated from Turtletown one year. Tennessee QSO party, we'll do an outing. It'll either be at that next to the post office in Turtletown or it'll be at Buck Bald. You can Google Buck Bald. It does come up. And a lot of my photos come up as well. But we'll talk about that as we get closer. It's 106 miles from my house to Buck Bald. So it's not local for some people, but it's not like going to the other side of the world. And I would encourage anybody who's interested in doing QSO parties, a portable, that's another event that really is a lot of fun. I can guarantee you we will not get locked on top of the mountain this year like we did last year. I'm going to protect the gate. The story is that some guy went up there while we were up there and closed the gate and put a padlock to it, which is the way the Forest Service locks it. But it wasn't the Forest Service. And we had a hard time just getting anybody to accept the fact that, hey, there's a bunch of people trapped on top of this mountain. It was 2 in the next afternoon before we were able to get down. But I'm going prepared. That won't happen again. I promise. Anything else? Well, I would hand it back to Rob to take over, but Rob's not here. Does anybody have any other events they need to talk about? Anything coming up? Nothing, huh? All right, I will send this to Rob. He can post it on the website or do whatever he wants to with it. And y'all keep in mind, we do have the second Sunday technical session coming up Sunday, starting at 2 p.m. And details will be posted again and details on the website. It's an antenna build led by Bob Bennett. He has built the antenna, so we know it works. If you've got a couple of wire coat hangers, I'd appreciate you bring them. If we don't use them for this one, we'll use them for something else. And that's all I got. John, you got anything else?
No, I think you covered it. Just like you mentioned, though, a good thing to have in your go bag for portable operations is a grinder to cut locks off of things.
Well,
That
my
is.
my solution is I've actually been back up there since. They have repaired that stud that they had to cut off. They've welded a new one back on there. But I took the little measuring tool, the micrometer, and I measured the size of the hole. And I now have a lock that I can put through that, and I can make sure that when I put my lock on there, they won't be able to put it back through the gate. It'll stay open until we leave, unless somebody comes to the grinder and cuts my lock off. So well, maybe I should put 2 locks. Well, that wouldn't help, would it? Anyway, a lot of fun, guys. I know John's wife got real upset because we had no cell phone service up there and she couldn't get a hold of him. But honestly, sitting out there on the road in the cars waiting for the Forest Service and then watching them, I had more fun watching them work on it than it was a good afternoon. I got no family. I don't care. It was fun. I know John was a little upset. Anybody got anything else? If not, we'll pull the plug on this month's meeting and I'll send this off to Rob.
Hey, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I come to the Sunday antenna build, I might be looking at throwing together something that's 6 meter vertical. So,
Okay. Well, we know how to calculate the numbers. We
yeah.
know the math. Uh, I don't have any problem. When Bob first talked about this, he was talking about 2 meter, 2 meter, 2 meter. And I said, what if somebody wants to build a 440? You know, I've got an analyzer that can analyze 440. We can build a 440, hook a piece of coax to it and test it.
Yeah.
And then I just threw in 6 meter because you're only talking about essentially doubling the length. So yeah, we can do 6 meters if you want to come do it. Just my only concern is that I have a limited number of coat hangers, and coat hanger is the building material.
Well, I was going to just bring wire and make it a hanging 6 meter like J pole or something.
Still got the radials.
Oh, gotcha.
Do
Well,
like the regulars.
I got hangers.
Okay. Bring as many. If we don't use them this
Well, I
Sunday,
can't
we'll
bring
use them.
all your hangers. I got clothes to hang, but I can bring some.
Oh man, come on, clothes to hang. You're a bachelor like me. You don't hang your clothes. You just throw them in the corner somewhere.
No, no, no. I don't do that. That's the dirty laundry in the floor.
Well, one corner's for dirty laundry and one's for clean. Right? The cats used to love laundry night because they just pile in the basket. So what the just don't even put it in the basket when it's clean. Just throw it in the floor. They're going to drag it all out on the floor
And
anyway.
they liked it better when it came out of the dryer, right?
Yeah, well, I've got a big Rubbermaid thing, and I keep my clothes in, underwear, t-shirts, socks, and things. And whenever I'd bring it in after doing laundry, I'd actually put a couple of towels over the basket because I knew the cat was going to pile into it. So they'd lay on the towels on top of the clean clothes. So when you got cats, you accommodate them, else you end up beating them all the time. You don't want to beat your cat. That doesn't help a lot. They don't get over that. All right. Anything else?
I'm
All right.
good.
Friday lunch tomorrow at El Potro on Buford Highway. If you're in the neighborhood, come by and have lunch. And otherwise, we'll see you guys Sunday and tomorrow night, Sunday night net too. John, Sunday night net. Oh, Aid's on. Aid, anything about the Sunday night net you want to throw in?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Good, because I've been having computer trouble. The Sunday night net, that would be
Sunday night.
Richard is net up and John is backup.
I do
All
have
right.
a suggestion for the Sunday night net.
Sure.
Uh, just just to help you guys out at figuring out questions to ask. At the end of each Sunday night net, ask if there's anybody that has a question they want to hear the next Sunday. In other words, if there's a technical question for the following week, uh, anybody to propose one.
Aid's the net manager. So you just put it in the ears of the man who can make it happen.
Yeah, good idea. Good idea. We'll do that.
All right, Lynn, thanks. Thanks, Aid. Anything else? Oh, John. What about Benjamin's Wednesday night net? You want to throw in a quick on that? All right, John may have left the building already.
I'm still here. I was talking to somebody. What's up?
Do you want to throw in a quick blurb about Benjamin's Aries Wednesday night net?
Oh, yeah. If anybody has an interest, Benjamin KQ4KIS, he's a student down at Chamblee High School, and he's actually got a radio club there too that he started, and he's also kind of started up a Wednesday night practice Aries net. And ARC has supported Aries in the past, so this might be an opportunity for us to kind of get back involved in that. But he runs his practice net every Wednesday night, 7:30 on the 682 machine, and of course, if you have Echo Link, you can get on there too and call in. And I try to get people to call in, just help support his activities. But it's also a chance for you to get on, and because he's now starting to do an activity where you kind of do a fake storm report and stuff. So he's trying to jazz it up a little bit, and he's learning and having a good time with it. So join us. You don't have to be interested. You don't really even have to want to do areas if you don't want to. But by all means, come out and support us and get on the net. So 7:30 Wednesday nights.
Benjamin is exactly the kind of thing that we are the kind of person that we talk about trying to encourage to get into ham radio. He's a young guy, he's interested, and he's got friends who are also interested. And I'll be honest, I hate to admit this, I keep forgetting about it because I can't really hit the repeater solid for my house right now. I can get into the DMR machine and I can get into a lot of DMRs, but I'm having trouble getting into the ARC 2-meter. And everybody says Echo Link. I've got it loaded on this computer. I just don't think about it, and that's my fault. But if you get a chance, check into the net on Wednesday night, and let's encourage and help Benjamin get along. At least don't let him get discouraged because nobody shows up.
Hey, John?
Go ahead, Lynn.
Yeah, John, why don't you suggest to Benjamin to bring his high school club to the Georgia QSO party?
Yeah, I'll do that. I don't know how big it is. I kind of figure it's a very small club, but I'll certainly suggest that. And if for anybody that may have checked in this past Wednesday, yesterday, he actually forgot about it. So we actually didn't have an Aries net last night because of that. But do do keep coming back, even if you don't hear us. That happens from time to time.
Well, you're practicing emergencies, and sometimes the emergency takes you off the air, so that's a practice too.
Yeah, and anybody really, honestly, uh, as you get involved in it, you can always jump on if you don't hear anybody, just like we do on Sunday nights. If someone doesn't jump on, then there's
Just
a
do it.
backup.
Just do it.
I was out I had another meeting to go to, so I couldn't, but I found out after the fact that he had missed because he'd forgotten about it. So, the life of a teenager.
Yeah. One other thing, you guys will keep reminding me of things. Um, Rob has reached out to the Georgia Tech Club, to their current president, and he sort of wrote an email that would introduce the two of us. Her name is, he's introduced the two of us. And I felt kind of weird reaching out to her on my own. Here's some old guy who's, basically emailing a college girl out of nowhere, just out of the blue. So he's introduced us. I haven't heard from her yet. I would like to encourage the Georgia Tech Club to come and do something with us, either for QSO party or a field day. So that's also in the works. The problem that we've had with the Georgia Tech Club is like every 2 years it completely reforms and just basically starts from scratch over and over. They don't seem to have a lot of continuity. And then by the time they get up to where the people that were members or were active are active, then you're at the 2 year mark and it resets again. I was kind of hoping at one point that we as our club could provide some continuity to them, so that there would be some constants between the resets of graduation and freshman year and whatnot. And it seemed to be working until Andrew graduated and went to work for JPL in California. And his replacement, who I want to say was Marquise or Mark's son Marcus, had no interest whatsoever, even though he was president of their chapter, no interest in doing anything radio, and we lost it. So I'd like to see if I could reestablish that with him, but we'll see. All
Hey,
right. Well,
Bill,
yes, sir.
uh, just to give you a little insight, I belong to the Aero Robotics Club at Southern Poly, and there's two things that can tend to keep consistency in a club on campus. One is a professor who's very involved as their advisor, and two is alumni that even after they graduate, they still work with the club. Those are the two big things that will help see a more consistent club.
Georgia Tech, the issue is, as I understand it, the alumni are not welcome to participate.
Well, by Georgia law, it's a lot. It should be allowed.
Mm,
Georgia law says a student club only needs to have one student member.
okay. Well, my understanding is that Georgia Tech, and this is coming from Rob, he's been involved with them the whole time, in and out, and Andy, we got 2 or 3 members. The university does not encourage that participation. And that's one of the reasons why I was hoping that we could become the backbone for them of consistency, so that some of us would always be involved in their activities, and their activities would include us, so that when they had this rollover at 2 years, they were still involved with us and we would be that, continuity.
Uh,
But and it worked okay for about 5 years, and then it broke. And there's various reasons why it broke, other than just a 2 year turnover.
well, maybe what you need to do then, if you want the club to be a little more consistent, I mean, bring some consistency to their club, is arrange with the current administration to have a specific event between the two clubs that becomes annual,
There you go.
something
Yep.
like that.
Like Georgia QSO party and field day.
Yeah, or even an event that is not necessarily timed with something in particular. Yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly my thinking. We got them involved in the Georgia QSO party and field day, and they were an integral part. There was some other things. See, we're getting off topic here. There were some other things too. Then when MFJ, who is the MFJ of MFJ, came to town, we actually put together a 2 club presentation, and we had probably 200, 300, 250 people show up. But we used the auditorium on Georgia Tech campus for
Right.
that. And that was because the two clubs were cooperating. We arranged for Martin to come to town. They arranged for the location, and it worked good. Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. This meeting is basically we've done the presentation. Does anybody have anything else? Otherwise, let's shut down and do our radio stuff. Going once, twice. All right, people. We'll see you Sunday at the airport for the antenna build. We'll see you the 24th at the outing in the park, and that's it. 7-3.